Hello and welcome to another episode of Spec Stepping. In today's episode, we're going to be going through the encoding API. Now, if you've done any sort of work in the web world, you know that you have to deal with network protocols, you have to deal with different streams, you have to deal with different types of encoding, UTF-8, but you might have a legacy system that you're encoding with that has a different structure to its encoding. And probably the most common translations that people do is, stringifying and, serialization and things like that. So this encoding API allows us to work with things like web workers, streams, and to take strings and different types of encoding systems and take them into strings to encode and decode them back and forth to help out with the communication. So we have an encoding and a decoding way to take it from string to encoding to bytes and bytes because the web works on bytes. So we need a way to communicate in that way and able to translate them into our application. So in this API, and like in previous videos, I encourage you to go through this spec. This spec has been available everywhere for decoding and all that stuff. So there's a whole bunch of interfaces and stuff here. But let's jump to the demo. I've got a brief demo to show you how this works. Now, the demo itself is, as far as the interface, the UI is going to be kind of blah because the encoding, decoding, we usually don't show a visualization of that. We usually do that on the back end and then show whatever the uh, object is or whatever the information is that we encode or decode on the front end on the UI. So there's not going to be much here. It's all done here in the console. So here you have the original string hello world. You have encoded bytes. I have the length, um, accidentally highlighted there, and then the hex of it, and then decoder, so I can decode the string and all that. So I'm going to jump through this piece by piece, and I'll show you what these mean here. But let me just jump over to the code. So the HTML is pretty blah and boring. There's not much here because we're going to do it in the console, and the CSS is pretty boring and simplistic because again, we're going to do most of this in the console. And I've tried to put a lot of comments in here and even a link to the API to help you out. So first we're going to go through this step by step. So I have a console log text encoder demo. So that's right up here, text encoder demo. Then here is where I'm actually enabling the encoder. This is where I'm accessing, tapping into that API. So I just have a constant where I'm initializing a text encoder. And then I just have the string I'm initializing, the hello world. And I have a special character because I want to show how you can do this with different characters. So I have a special character. I have this image right here because sometimes you'll do this with emojis and things like that. So I have this special character. And then I'm just console logging out the original string right here. Okay. Then here, this encoded bytes. So I'm going to encode the string as an 8-bit unsigned signature. So here I've got my encoder, which is my text encoder API, and I call the encode method, and I pass my text encode, the hello world string, to it. Then I'm just dumping that to the console. So this is the encoded bytes right here. See, it's all encoded. Then I'm just saying what the length is. So the length of it. Sometimes it's helpful to know the length, if you're doing like processing, you do have a percentage progress bar, that sort of thing. So, and as I have here in the note, don't always expect the length to be the same. See, like this uses 4 bytes and my special character uses 2. So there's multiple bytes there. Then I wanted to show the hexadecimal representation. So I just have a hex string and I'm just creating an array from the encoded bytes right up here. And I'm just mapping them out to a string 16 with the byte that I'm passing and then just joining them all together. So you can see here is the encoded bytes in hexadecimal hex form. Then so that's how we're taking a string and encoding it possibly for transmission or what have you. Now, what if we get something we're going to decode it? So here I have my decoder demo and I take my I create a decoder, and again, this is part of the API. I say, okay, I want a text decoder up here. I didn't pass through um, UTF-8 because it only supports that currently that I'm aware. And so, but here I could decode in other forms other than UTF-8. The reason why it supports that is you may be working with a legacy system that decodes in a different format. So I'm telling it UTF-8 because that's how I encoded it. I'm using the same message back and forth. So you need to know what the encoding is that you're decoding. And in my decode text, I just call my decode method of my encoded bytes that are up here that I've encoded. And then I'm console logging it out. So it takes it and turns it back into a string right here. Okay. And then I just want to verify, okay, does the decoded string match the original? So I have my text to encode, which is right up here, and my decoded text. Do they exactly match? Notice I'm using the triple equal sign. Do they match? Yes, it's true. They do match there. Now, just a couple other scenarios here. So I have this, imagine you receive a byte array. Here's a different form, not UTF-8, Windows 1252. So it's a legacy encoding. So here I have it in that 1252 format. Then here I have this console log 1252 encoded bytes. So I have the unit 8 array, uint 8 array, I should say. And so here's the Windows 1252 encoded bytes. Then I create a decoder, and here instead of passing UTF-8, I'm passing Windows 1252 to tell it that's what the type of data I'm working with. And then it uses the same decode method. I'm decoding, and then I console log it out, and it says hello world right there. Okay. And then here I have a scenario. What happens if we if we have Windows 1252 and we try to decode it with UTF-8? So I have it all in one string here while I'm trying to decode. So here it says incorrectly decoded string for UTF-8 for Windows 1252 bytes. It just says hello world and it has a little symbol there. It doesn't have the copyright. I think that's a copyright symbol there, is what I put in there. So it doesn't have the right symbols there. It's being displayed. It's incorrectly. So see how you'll see the uh, symbol was replaced by nothing. Okay, so and then you also can handle errors here. So here's my error handling demo. So here I set up an error where I have a fatal error for my text decoder, and then a non-fatal error, which is the default behavior for my text decoder. So my fatal error will say fail to execute decode on text decoder. It wasn't valid. Or when I set it to false, it just does those little question marks. So I just have a try catch. So if I want a fatal error to throw, then with this invalid uh, bytes here, it's going to throw an error message. So decoding with fatal error, that's this one right here. And then here I'm decoding with fatal false. So this one shows the error message. This one shows nothing because I set fatal error to true, fatal error to false. I personally would set it to fatal error true if I'm doing this in production, wrap it in a try catch. I probably wouldn't console log it out because that helps no one but the developer, doesn't help the end user. I would probably put some sort of error messages to display for the end user on the front end. And I would also probably capture those in a log or database on the back end so that we can debug whatever it is we need to debug. Typically, the issue is I'm using the wrong encoding. So that's typically what you see. Okay, so then also just as a side note, first the above I did that hard coded string, but you can do this with streams as well. So I have, and this is I did this in the conceptual format, stream based API. So I'm not going out and getting a stream. I'm just showing you that this is possible. So I can encode it with text encoder stream, text decoder stream, which is different than encode and decode up here, but it's part of the same API. And so if I'm having it arrive in chunks, like let's say I have node server on the back end that's streaming it, and it's coming in streams and chunks. I can use readable stream, writable stream, and pipe it through with text decoder stream. I didn't want to take the time to set that up here. This is just meant to be a brief demo, but you can do it with streams as well. So again, it allows you to take strings and encode them. And it also allows you to take things that are encoded, typically UTF-8, and decode them back into strings to use in your application. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know.